In this video, we're going to talk about some valid reasoning, and some of these are just text things here about fallacies. So we have the fallacy of an inappropriate authority, which is basically claiming that a statement is true because somebody that sounds smart said it was true, or because a lot of people just believe it's true. You can visualize a version of that. There's the fallacy of hasty generalization, which is like saying, I talked to somebody else in my class and they're failing, therefore this class is really hard. You've only talked to one person, so maybe that's not true. The fallacy of questionable cause is claiming that A caused B just because A occurred before B. This is, I didn't wear my lucky underwear and the Houston Texans lost the football game. That's a fallacy of questionable cause. The fallacy of ignorance is saying that something's true just because it's never been proven false. Again, you can think of examples of people making those kind of claims. The either-or fallacy presents only two solutions to a problem. Either you're with us or you're against us. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that you're against us if you're not with us. And the fallacy of composition occurs when either you take some parts of a group and make a conclusion about the whole group, or you do it the other way around. You apply characteristics of the whole group to just parts of the group. So these are terms you don't necessarily need to memorize these, but you will be required to identify them for some of the homework questions. And there are standard forms of arguments down here. Direct reasoning. If P then Q means that, well, if P happens, then Q happened. Contrapositive reasoning says, we've talked about how contrapositive is always true for a conditional statement. So if you negate Q and then do a conditional to not P, then that's true. There's disjunctive reasoning, and you can kind of study those. Transitive reasoning says, if A then B, and then if B then C, therefore if A happens then C happens. Or you can do the contrapositive of that. So there are some other invalid arguments about how you can use various things to create invalid arguments that sound very good. They sound like very good arguments. If you wrote some statements out with P's and Q's for these, they sound like they may be true in cases, and in some cases they may be, but more often than not, they're actually not. So we're going to use this to come down here to evaluate an argument made by a radio talk show host that was directed at a celebrity. It says, if this celebrity really believed that the automobile were a threat to the planet, he would not travel in a gas guzzler. And the celebrity does travel in a gas guzzler. Therefore, the celebrity does not really believe that the automobile is a threat to the planet. So we're going to use P as the celebrity really believes the automobile is a threat to the planet, and Q is he does not travel in a gas guzzler to decide if this argument is valid. All right, so let's set up our P and our Q here in our statement. So P is if the celebrity really believed the gas guzzler were a threat to the planet. So we're going to say that's P. Then we're going to say, then he would not travel in a gas guzzler. So then, or therefore, he does not travel in a gas guzzler. So that would be Q. All right, so recall the second line, we always put a conjunction in between those, an and statement. The celebrity does travel in a gas guzzler. All right, so that is negating Q. You see, he does not travel on a gas guzzler. He does travel on a gas guzzler, so we would say not Q. And then the final part is to do a conditional and say, therefore, the celebrity does not really believe that the automobile is a threat to the planet. So the celebrity does not believe, so that's going to be not P. And those are the symbols for this argument that's laid out here. So we're going to decide, does this make sense or not? So you could certainly set up a truth table here to decide if this argument is valid or not, but what we want to do is actually go back up and look at some of our valid and invalid arguments here and decide which of these matches that statement. So hopefully you look here and you see the contrapositive reasoning looks pretty similar to this. So we have if P then Q here. Recall the second line is always a conjunction, so there's and then not Q, and then therefore not P. So therefore this statement that we have written down here is a contrapositive reasoning. So the statement is valid. Now here's what the question's asking. It says, I determined that the radio talk show host argument is invalid. All right, so does that statement make sense? And so we would come down and say that this is answer choice A. That statement does not make sense because those symbols that we just wrote is valid by contrapositive reasoning. So you would choose answer choice A here. But again, you're always not necessarily saying does this statement make sense, but does the statement at the end of the problem here, is that what makes sense or not? And so we said it does not make sense because the argument made above here is valid by contrapositive reasoning.